stay here?
Yes, I have been offered a post.
How happy you must be.
Where do you stay?
Not here, but there and everywhere. Towns.
The Lady in White is typically a ghost dressed in a white dress or a nightgown, and is reportedly seen in rural areas and is associated with local legends of tragedy. Lady in White legends are told all over the world, and it's pretty common for these stories to have an accidental death, murder, suicide, with themes of loss, betrayal, and unrequited love. In medieval legend, a lady in white was fabled to appear by day and night in a house where a family member is soon to die. They also appeared in photos just before or after a death. The spirits were regarded as the ghosts of deceased ancestors. The Brazilian Lady in White is said to be the ghost of a young woman who died of childbirth or of violent causes. According to legend, she appears as a pale woman in a long white dress or sleeping gown, and although usually speechless, she occasionally recounts her misfortunes. The origins of the myth aren't clear. A Brazilian folklore dictionary proposes that the ghost is related to the violent deaths of young women who were murdered by their fathers or husbands in an honor killing. A popular legend in Canada claims that the surroundings of Montmorency Falls near Quebec City are haunted by a lady in white. It's said to be the spirit of a young Canadian woman whose soon-to-be husband died in the Battle of Beauport. The young couple would allegedly meet at the top of the falls, and after his death, she chose this site to end her life by jumping off the cliff while wearing the wedding dress that she had just previously ordered. A smaller waterfall in the vicinity is now named White Lady Waterfall in reference to this legend. The best-known Lady in White of the Czech Republic is the ghost of Perchta of Rosenberg Castle. Perchta married a nobleman, but was largely unhappy her entire marriage. Legend has it that as he was dying, her husband asked for forgiveness for his treatment of her. She refused, and he cursed her. So now she haunts all of his holdings, which includes more than one castle. The most common is Český Krumlov Castle. In Germany, there's a legend of a lady in white who was the wife of a prince. The prince was away fighting the 30-year war, and she took in a lover. He suddenly returned unexpectedly and caught them, and he drowned her lover in the moat, and then encased her in a wall in his manor, and gave her some food and water, and he did this so that she wouldn't cheat on him again. Well, he died in the war, and she ran out of food and water, and she died herself. Years later, a new owner is doing some renovations and ordered that that wall be torn down. So they tore that wall down that her body was still trapped in. And the next day, the worker that had torn down the wall was working on the roof when he fell, broke his back, and died. Totally unrelated. In the Philippines, a lady in white is known as a caparosa and is often used to scare and mystify children for storytelling. The most popular lady in white is the one of Bailey Drive in Quezon City. Most of her stories are told by taxi drivers on the graveyard shift. There's one about a taxi driver that crosses Ballot Drive and a girl is asking for a ride, so he pulls over and picks her up. And as they're driving down the road, he looks in the rearview mirror and notices that her face is full of blood and bruises, causing him to pull over and abandon his taxi in terror. Most accidents on the road are blamed on the lady in white. Many sources have actually said that this story was manufactured and is possibly a combination of a bunch of stories from around the area. 13 stories in England suggest that the lady in white may be the victim of murder or suicide before she could tell anyone the location of some hidden treasure. Around 2019, yeah, that recent, there was a family living in the castle of Blenkinsop in Northumberland. One night, the parents woke up to their boy screaming, "The White Lady!" But by the time they got to his side, she had already vanished. The son swore that she was upset and tried to take him away because he had refused to go down to the vaults with her for some supposed box of gold. Now this happened over and over again for the next 3 nights. When the son decided to start sleeping with his parents, the White Lady didn't bother him anymore. But he still refused to be alone in that castle for fear of her. Another lady in white, known as the Running Lady of Beeford, East Yorkshire, is seen on the Beeford Strait, a stretch of road between Beeford and Brandisburton. And yet another lady in white is seen in the Portchester Castle, where his spirit is said to haunt to this day. There's a lady in white in Rochester, New York, in Bedford, Virginia, and in Union Cemetery in Easton, Connecticut. They're everywhere. Tulamato Cemetery in St. Augustine, Florida has had tales of a lady in white that haunts the grounds since the 19th century. Legend is that the ghost is the spirit of a woman that was on her way to get married and died suddenly and then was buried in her wedding dress. In Mukilteo, Washington, there's been alleged reports of a vanishing hitchhiker lady in white. Resurrection Mary in Chicago shares tales of both a vanishing hitchhiker and your standard lady in white. In Madisonville, Louisiana, the local legend is called the Silk Lady. Her ghost haunts Palmetto Flats by Highway 22. And people say that she cackles like a banshee when she sees you. In Pennsylvania, where she is known as the White Lady of Wapsie, her ghost is said to haunt Wapsianonoc Mountain and Buckhorn Mountain in the western part of Altoona. In Fremont, California, they call her the White Witch, and she haunts Niles Canyon. In Hattiesburg, Mississippi, a woman in white is connected to the history of Burnt Bridge Road. In the 70s, a woman was killed in a car accident while crossing a wooden bridge. The resulting fire destroyed the bridge, which was later rebuilt in concrete, and gave the road its new name. I'm going to close out this episode with a couple of stories that are only slightly closer to me than Fremont, California. These last couple stories come from San Luis Obispo County. Legend has it that if you drive down Highway 1 near Colander Road in Nipomo in the dead of night, a woman in white will appear. Accounts say that the woman appears on the highway around 12:15 a.m. and haunts the site of a fatal crash in the 50s that killed her family. It is even rumored that if you don't stop, she'll take control of your car and crash it herself. Slow Tribune archives have identified the woman as the Lady of the Slough, a woman that is a victim of a terrible stagecoach crash in the 1800s. It's said that she'll get into passing cars and even have a conversation with you while you drive. She'll ask if you've seen her baby and search for the baby's blood and then just disappear with only a damp spot in your car seat as the only evidence that she's ever even been there. Now this right here is the only story with a major difference in a very critical detail. The Lady of Black Lake either drowned in the lake near Nipomo or was murdered and dumped in the lake nearly 200 years ago. But while every woman I've told you about so far has been a woman in white, the Lady of Black Lake is dressed all in black. Apparently, the bizarre part of her appearance is that she has no face, just glowing, eerie white light. While yes, this is a bizarre detail. I think an equally bizarre detail would be a dead woman just walking around in general. One more as a bonus. Near present-day Fort Hunter Liggett, there is an apparition known as Headless Halloran. Alice and Michael Halloran, with their newborn baby, drove their wagon to their new home along the Nacimiento River. According to legend, they were warned not to attempt to cross the river because it was too high, but Mr. Halloran thought that he knew different and decided to do it anyways. Alice held the baby tight as they tried to traverse the high, muddy waters. A high current caught them and turned the wagon over and over, and Alice was caught in the reins and decapitated, and unfortunately the baby drowned. Witnesses insist that Alice still haunts the area, searching for her head and her missing baby. That's it for this episode. You know the routine. Like, subscribe, share, bell, whatever. See you next time.